In this video we'll show you how to calibrate the SEC Millennium infrared sensor that's connected to the 3100 or 3120 transmitter. The 3120 transmitter can have two sensors connected to it. So it has sensor number 1 and sensor number 2, and you can see the toggling back and forth reading the sensor's gas value right now. To enter the calibration mode, use a magnet, and we have an enter, a down arrow, and an up arrow to navigate through the menu structure. So first we'll go into enter, and then we'll arrow down to main menu, and the cursor moves down. You select enter. The first menu that pops up is the calibration, and so we want to enter the calibration mode. And since this has two sensors connected to it, you'll be able to select sensor number 1 or sensor number 2. So to select sensor number 1 or 2, you just go to enter, the cursor jumps over to the right side, and you can either select 2 or back to 1. And since the camera is on number 1, we'll calibrate number 1. So once the sensor is selected, to get rid of the cursor, you jump to the enter again. And the first procedure that you want to do is you want to, with the magnet, you arrow down to 0. So if it's in a clean air environment, you can use the ambient air to zero the sensor, or if it has background gas in it, you'd connect a clean air source, either clean air or nitrogen, and you'd connect it to the calibration port on the sensor. Down below here there's a little barb fitting where you connect your tubing up to, and we'll see that in a minute when we go to the spanning. So the cursor's on 0, we select enter, and we'll say you'll give the gas reading up in the right hand corner. Right now it's reading 0. So to zero the sensor, you go to enter again, and you'll see the little lights start toggling, and now it's telling the screen saying 0 sensor 1 right now. And once it zeroes, it goes back to the normal state, and so now the sensor is zeroed. And now we'll span the sensor. First of all, you want to check your cal gas value, and it's set for 50%, so that means you have to provide 50% LEL methane to the sensor to calibrate it, to span it. So we'll arrow down to span, we'll select enter, and then we'll connect our calibration gas cylinder and tubing up to the barb fitting on the bottom of the sensor. And typically we flow 1 liter per minute calibration gas flow to the sensor. So I'm opening up the gas cylinder, and as the sensor starts reading gas, you'll see it in the upper right hand corner, it's actual gas reading. And this reading may or may not go up to the 50%, but once you span it, it'll actually tell the sensor that you're applying 50% and change that reading to 50% LEL. So you just flow the gas for a minute or so and let the reading stabilize. So right now it's toggling between 49.2 and 50, so the sensor's within calibration, but we'll span it anyway. So we'll select enter to span it, and now it goes through its spanning procedure, and it will, once it's completed, it will just stay in the calibration mode, so it doesn't turn any alarms on or anything like that, because right now it's done, and it's reading the 49.2. So I turn the gas off, and now we let the gas dissipate out of the sensor, or we could blow clean air into the sensor in order to purge the sensor of that gas. So that's what I'll do now, is I'll just apply clean air to the sensor. So once it goes below any alarm level, it just goes back to the normal calibration mode, and you're completed with your calibration. So what you'll do now is you'll just arrow down till you get to previous menu, select enter, arrow down again to get to previous menu, enter, arrow down again till you get to exit, and now it's just back to normal. See, some of the gas is going back up into the sensor, and that's what the small reading is. So eventually that gas will dissipate out of the sensor, it'll just read 0. So that's the end of the calibration of the 3120 hooked up to the Millennium infrared sensor.